for this machine to 3D print his entire house. It prints the walls.
Looking at these videos, the future of construction appears to be here.
Forget everything you thought you knew about building homes, because the next housing revolution is being printed.
The promise is exciting. 3D printing helps build homes quickly and cheaply, maybe just what's needed to help solve the housing shortage.
With giant robotic arms, a 100 square metered house can now be created in just 24 to 48 hours.
In Canada, a few are proving that it can be done.
So how many units do we have here?
So we have 12 on this block here and 14 on that.
But for others, the promise remains frustratingly out of reach.
The system is broken. It really is. The construction industry is broken. And it needs to be fixed because what they've been doing with traditional builds is not working.
In Ontario's cottage country in Muskoka, we meet Linda Reisman. Set to retire, she wanted to build a home on a patch of land she owned. But when construction companies quoted her how much building that house would cost, well over $1 million, she was shocked and says she couldn't afford that. And she's not alone.
I spoke to people that are tradespeople, teachers, seniors, young families, and they told me over and over again that it's almost impossible to find a home here and to be able to live in the community that they're supporting.
Necessity became, as they say, the mother of invention. As Reisman thought of a way to build her own house and help others too, she was also hearing of the new advances in 3D printing for housing.
The light bulb went out that I could buy a 3D printing concrete machine, I could build a home, I could get the walls standing in 72 hours of print time.
She bought this robotic arm needed for 3D printing concrete with close to $700,000 of her own savings.
And this is on wheels.
Yeah, it's a trailer that we can move the whole robotic arm to any site.
Her idea was that this investment would make building her own house much cheaper and also help build houses in the community.
I used all my own capital for it. We did get help from one lender, but basically I've used all my own capital.
Wow, that's a risk. Did it feel like a risk at the time?
Oh yeah, it was a big risk because as great as it all sounded, I didn't think it was going to be so hard. I thought, we hear on every politician that stands in front of a camera is that we need affordable housing.
And quickly.
And quickly.
Build, baby, build. That is what we're going to do.
Building the homes we need in a matter of months. Doing it with 3D printing and automation.
In 2024, the federal government allocated $600 million, largely for innovation in home building. But when Linda Reisman tried to access some of that money,
have you been able to access any money from the government?
So no, to your question, because 3D concrete printing doesn't fit in a traditional way.
So Linda, you're telling me you talked to the local government, provincial government, the federal government, nothing?
Nothing.
But for Linda's robotic arm to build homes, she has to find a way to work with builders and developers. It can't do the full job. But she says so far, everyone she's spoken to in Canada isn't willing to work with the technology.
Tell me, Linda, what do you think is behind that fear or reluctance? Is it just the fear of the new?
Yes, it's unknown. So if I was able to build a proof of concept and people were able to come into it and touch it and feel it and see it, they would be amazed that it's not just a concrete home, it's a beautiful living space.
The slow birth of 3D printed housing in Canada is in contrast to other parts of the world. In Germany, the business seems to be booming. China, Mexico, Denmark are all working with this technology. And in the US, they've built everything from Walmarts to Starbucks to Marine barracks using this method. So why does Canada seem to be lagging behind?
The construction industry is like an ocean liner. It's a complex system and it takes a lot of time and effort to change its direction.
This professor of architecture says the en masse adoption of 3D printing has to come from the industry, not just the government.
With 3D printing, you're only printing just the walls. I mean, sometimes you're including other things, but really you have to think about countertops and plumbing systems and electrical systems and how those are kind of synced up. Building code, zoning regulations, financing practices, all of these systems are aligned to the traditional ways we built.
So in order for 3D printing to really take off in Canada, traditional builders and developers must get on board. This architect and professor of urban design agrees with that. She thinks 3D could be a solution, but not the silver bullet to solve Canada's housing crisis.
Fast isn't always the thing that's going to bring us the most sustainable solution.
What she's not so sure about is how long houses built this way will last, or if they will be able to be renovated and refurbished eventually. She also has other ideas about why 3D printing may not be the perfect fit for Canada, our harsh winters.
If we're thinking about insulation in Canada, you need like this much insulation in a house. Really and truly, particularly in the northern areas, I'd even say even wider.
Still, on a frigid winter's day in Gananoque, Ontario, that proof of concept that Linda spoke about does exist.
Tell me about this project. It's one of the first ones of its kind in Canada, right?
What we're sitting in is the first and largest neighborhood in Canada built using concrete 3D printing.
This company took a chance and used 3D printed cement for exterior and interior wall construction of this townhouse complex.
This is the kitchen, open concept.
Kitchen.
Bathroom, very modern.
The results of this high-tech method may be surprisingly warm and organic with 3D printing's signature curved edges. The company's CEO says they've thought about potential problems like insulation and solved them.
You talked about the insulation, so this is what the insulation looks like. It's an outside wall here, and then on the inside, and all of that space, that thick space in between is the insulation. So that's why this is a warmer room than a traditional building.
And it's cold outside right now, but it's quite warm here.
Yeah, and it's also very quiet.
The company did get a grant from the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation for the use of 3D printing. In an email to CBC, the corporation says that's one of only 3 grants for 3D printing in construction they've given out so far. And Yen says there were technical and bureaucratic hurdles to overcome.
And certainly the technological challenges to demonstrate, for example, that this wall system and the methodologies satisfy Ontario Building Code regulations. That's one example. Finding engineers that would work with us, finding trades and contractors that would work with something new.
But still, by reducing the number of workers needed and upping the speed of construction, they say they can considerably reduce the costs needed to build conventionally, and that as the tech progresses in the industry, speed and savings will grow. And those kinds of savings are being seen in the rents people who will live in these units will be charged.
8 of the units will be priced at around $1,000 a month, which we think is pretty affordable.
This is not the end of their 3D printing housing ambitions. Just east of Hamilton, Ontario, they're building even bigger.
It's an Indigenous-led design project. It's a 3-story building. It's going to be
All built by 3D printing.
all built by 3D printing, multiple mobile robots running on the job site. So it's leading edge certainly for Canada, and it's one of, if not the biggest project in the world using this technology.
Back in Muskoka, Linda Reisman still has hope despite setbacks.
Do you feel like you're maybe a little almost too early on a trend?
Too early, definitely. I think there's founders like me, there's companies like me that start early off, and people just watch and they see what's going to happen to these companies. My goal is just to give people a place to live. It's really hard for people, and I've seen it firsthand. Once somebody has a roof over their head, everything changes for them.
For now, Linda and her partner are living in a rented condo. They're negotiating with construction companies abroad that work with 3D printing technology. Her business is also working with interior designers and using their 3D printer for outdoor landscaping projects.
So this is an outdoor fire pit that we just have to finish and put the fire elements inside.
And dreaming of when she'll see her own 3D house on this plot of land.